A typical home installation. Keep it simple, keep it real. Now, this video is a bit of just a first of a case study that we're going to do. Now, it is actually one of the team members here at RF Shop and where she lives in the Adelaide Hills at the moment. The scenario is that the Adelaide Hills, if you're not familiar with South Australia, it's obviously an awesome place, but it's against the slope, and that's the area where the signal is probably at its weakest, and there's also the least amount of base stations. It's quite hilly, there's a lot of trees, so there's a lot of reasons why it won't be easy to get a good internet connection over there. Now, we have a whole range of questions, because now the option is, okay, let's do an installation for the couple of parents that basically live in this property. And of course we get a whole list of questions back. So, okay, well, what about everything that we need to do and how is this going to work? So we're going to go through the whole exercise here. First of all, just basically typical phone conversation I would have to explain what we can do, what can be done in the whole scenario. And I have a list of questions that we got through email, which is what we hear a lot through the phone as well. So I'll explain these bit by bit. And then next step will be to actually go to site, do a bit of a site survey, have a look, take photos, and do another video shoot there and actually do the test so we can demonstrate what's going on. And if we do the actual installation, assuming it will be acceptable by the potential customer, we will then do installation and do a final demonstration of how it works and the difference between before and after, so that you could see how the experience is from getting optimal internet connections to something that is very decent to use. So I'm definitely thinking about something like the Teltonica RUT360, or the customer is already using a Nighthawk. So you have a Nighthawk, and I have my opinions about the Nighthawk for general use at home use, but if it's convenient, then of course it's good enough. You just need to get adapter cables to make it work for you. There is a Nighthawk working, which is a significant clue, because that means there is a signal, and there is a signal inside the house, but it is pretty unreliable. That typically drives me to the point where I think a high-end antenna such as a Yagi or an LPDA may not be necessary, because there is a signal. You just need to clean it up and get a good signal from the outside in. That gets me to what I normally would consider as the X-Bolt 2, which is really a phenomenal antenna for that scenario and that setup. Because they don't really want to look at 5G and all the latest and greatest buzzwords. That's also not currently something that we need to worry about. So here's a list of the questions that we're just running through. What's the best antenna for this kind of setup? Okay, so I already spoke about that. That's clever. Because there is a signal and it is being used at the moment, I wouldn't want to go over the top. I do not want to go omni. I kind of never want to go omni antennas when it's for a fixed installation, because at any given time you are only connected to one base station. Now, it is true, if you get an omni, the modem can actually select between different base stations and avoid congestion, and the network can control what's going on. But it's one of those choices that one has to make. What I have heard with pointing antennas, what they sometimes do is tell people to use an omni and a single directional antenna in a combination, so that you have a best connection when you have a connection. Main would be through the directional antenna, and the auxiliary could be through the omni. So if things go bit south on the specific space station that you're connected to, for whatever reason, power supply issues or potentially congestion, then your modem still has access to all the other options that might be around. I think normally it's just go for gold and just go for the one that's best, and just keep that. But that is more personal opinion. That's not necessarily the way that everybody does it. However, with a Cell-Fi, it is important, because Cell-Fis do not like getting too many options. So for Cell-Fi, you want to go for one specific direction. I'm not going to talk about Cell-Fi here. I'm very focused on data in general, and this is also a data-specific related connection, which I will talk about a bit later as well. Where should I put the antenna is the second question. Well, outside is the key answer. If you put it inside, you still having a lot of problems that might be there. So definitely outside on the roof, a little bit higher would be better. In this case, as I say, there is likely to be a lot of trees, so the higher you can go, the more you can clear the canopies of those trees. Since the property is surrounded by trees and the house is lower on the side of the hill, how high should the antenna be? Just imagine this now. So Adelaide Hills is literally, the city is here, there's the sea on one side, and the hills is on that side. And this is one of those properties that's kind of on the slopey side. So it's not inside the hills with hills everywhere. It's basically one-sided, it's on the side, and the hill, very shallow slope, but still it is looking in one direction. So of course, you would want to put the antenna, if possible, somewhere where it's a little bit higher, and then see if you could get the better view of the city and the lower areas where there's more base stations to connect to. But you also need to think about the inside of the house, because where you put your antenna, that's where your modem is going to be, close to that. And if this is on the corner of the house, totally where there's actually just, it's the pantry and it's above the pantry, and then there's nothing that's going to help you on the Wi-Fi, you need to think a bit forward as well. So the modem needs to be placed somewhere that makes sense for you in terms of where you want to have your modem, where you have the Wi-Fi connection. So it's kind of this combination. That's where site visits become so important, so that somebody could work with the customer to say, I would prefer to have the antenna there, but you say you want the modem there. So we have to make a compromise to say, okay, well, let's put the modem somewhere closer. Let's put the antenna somewhere here. So until you find that best place where both the installer and the customer will be happy with the location of the solution. Inside the house, since it's a double brick house, so it's a nice, proper classic house, I have a problem with Wi-Fi signal reach. Would Wi-Fi antennas help fix this? Yes, it would. Now, this is one of the pet peeves I have with a Nighthawk, such as, well, any one of them really. There is only 2, or I don't know how many Wi-Fi antennas it has, but it's all inside this little box. There's nothing else you can do with it other than actually using the Ethernet port to connect to another elaborate system, or to have another system, Wi-Fi mesh, whatever mesh there might be available. With a device such as the Teltonicas, you do have 2 really decent Wi-Fi antennas to start with, plus external ports. So there's a lot you can do without going over the top with an additional system. This is a better antenna, Wi-Fi wise, than what's coming with the Nighthawk. Plus, you can remove this, you can reposition this, and you can do all sorts of tricks inside the house without having a lot of extra electronics all spread all over the house as well. So that is one thing. Antenna placement on the roof, so that your modem is placed somewhere that is sensible, and then the antenna modem selection, such as, of course, I'm preferring the Teltonicas, but that's one of the very obvious reasons why I also love the Teltonicas, is the external Wi-Fi antennas that gives you that freedom. What kind of Wi-Fi antenna should I attach on my modem? It's as if the person who wrote the questions knew what I was going to say. So first of all, start with the antennas that come with the modem itself. So it comes with the antennas that are part of the Teltonica router. I'm going to assume it's a Teltonica router. There are other antennas available. You look some on our website, rfshop.com.au. Alpha has a 2 very elegant, very small paddle antennas. So they're in the region of about 20 Australian dollars. It's a directional antenna, which you would then replace that antenna that you have on there with one of those directional antennas, just right on there, and it would push the signal in a specific direction. And that gives you another level of freedom. They are anything from, I think, 6 to 10 dB, depending on the frequency band. So that is a simple first pass option that I would consider if it's necessary. There was another 2 questions that came up a bit later. So one is, if we were to install the actual X-Bolt 2 outside, one idea that I get a lot is, can I put this on my TV antenna mast? And the question that I had here is, will it interfere with my TV signal? It is a difficult one to answer, because strictly speaking, and also in the installation manuals with pointing on that antenna, they say do not put it on the same mast. And it's because this is a global product in a global setup. The frequencies are completely different here in Australia. So the antenna won't interfere with the TV antenna, because it's completely different technologies and they don't have any overlapping frequencies unless there is no filtering. So there are filters involved in the TV side, and there might be, there should be really good filtering involved in the actual modem and the setup as well. So they are designed to be co-located, as we say, which means they can be close to each other. We have seen a lot of customers with very good success putting the X-Bolt 2 antenna or those antennas on the same mast as well. Personally, how many people are these days watching the free-to-air TV or actually doing streaming TV, where that antenna is going to be your TV antenna? So if you want to invest in another mast, yes, that is good. If you want to take the risk and see if the interference is not too bad, that would be okay. These antennas weigh 900 grams, so it's not like that's a massive burden on the TV mast. So I'm sticking my head out here. I think it is probably okay, but I know that a lot of people would disagree with me, and I accept that is the case. keep it simple. Look at your own setup, see what makes most sense for your setup. The last question, if you were to put this X-Bolt 2 on the roof and you connect it to your Nighthawk, will it help with your phone? Difficult question to answer because it is actually not as easy as it should be. The question is it going to help with the phone? The answer is no. It's not doing the same, because for that you need another system such as the Selfie Go. However, and this is definitely where things are heading, and that's why I'm so fond of data these days. If your phone does Wi-Fi calling, and I have an iPhone 13, I don't know if it's a new operating system or if it's the newer models, they actually look for Wi-Fi rather than cellular network, because I sometimes see my phone, it just actually doesn't tell me I'm on the Optus network, which is the SIM card I have. It tells me it's on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi calling, I mean. No, I know it's on Wi-Fi, but it actually also replaces the voice connection to Wi-Fi calling. So, and in that case, if your phone uses the Wi-Fi network for its connection to the network, then it is actually going to help. So, no, it's not going to help for the classic way we think about your phone service, but it increases and improves your data connection, and your phone is actually on the data network and does what it needs to do. It does help. So, it's a complicated answer because it's actually getting more and more difficult to answer that with a straight yes or no. I know the question was based on the assumption, is it just the phone? So for that question, which comes from that specific customer, the answer is no, not the way you think it is. But and then there's this long path to another answer. The next step would be to actually go and do the installation. We'll do another video on that later, and hopefully that would be interesting for you as well. Thanks for watching this first part of this sequence. Weather permitting, we should be out there in the next few weeks, and we'll do the follow-up videos as well. As I say, we will probably connect to the Nighthawk because that's what's already there, and it's not a bad solution for a lot of customers, so all good. That is all perfectly fine. But we will also demonstrate the RUT360 as an alternative if somebody does not have a modem yet. I mean, the same story would actually apply as the video which I've done 2 years by now is on something like the Huawei B818. And also on the 5G modems now with the new Telstra modems, the same story can also apply to that. So the sequence is the same, it's just new technologies and different modems. Thanks for watching, hope to see you on the next video soon. Cheers, bye-bye.